Problem solving, straight line. We're given a sketch and we are asked to determine a couple of things on the sketch. Number one, or A, determine the coordinates of C. Now when I look at any problem and I read the question, I should think of what tools or what can I use to answer that question. So in this case, let's have a look quickly. We have C here. What can we use to find the coordinates of C? I can see that C is the midpoint of line AB because this is equal to that. So what can I use? The midpoint formula. So let's use that to calculate C quickly. There we have our midpoint formula. Let's label our points quickly. I've labeled my points. There's x2 and y2, and here we have x1 and y1. So now I simply take those points and substitute it in my formula. Quick tip, when you've substituted and you need to simplify, first simplify and then you just use a calculator to verify. 2 plus -6 is -4, divide by 2. And for this point, I have 8 plus -2 is 6, divided by 2. So that means my point for C would be 2, or -2 for my x value, and then 3 for my y value. And now that I have this, I can write it on my sketch. B, determine the equation of line CD. First thing that we need when we're going to calculate or determine the equation is to write down the general equation for the straight line. Now I need my gradient and I need my y-cut. Now I need to look at the information that they give me and check what I can use in order to calculate my gradient and to calculate my y-cut. So from the information that I get here, the easiest way to calculate our gradient is to use delta y over delta x, but for that I need two known points. There's one point, there's another point, but I don't have my y value. So I can't use delta y over delta x in this case. But here I can see that this line is perpendicular on line AB. Can I calculate the gradient of AB and then multiply it, or then use the formula of perpendicular lines to calculate the gradient of CD? Of course I can. Why? Because here I have two known points for line AB. So I'll use that, calculate the gradient, and then I will calculate the gradient of CD. So let's go ahead and calculate the gradient of line AB. Here's my formula. I've already labeled, so now I substitute. Y2 is 8, Y1 minus 2, X2 is 2, minus 6. Then again, I will always remind you, I always use brackets when I substitute. And then I simplify. 8 minus 2 is 10. 2 minus 6 is 8. And there I have my gradient, 5 over 4. Now that I have my gradient for line AB, which is 5 over 4, I can use this formula to calculate my gradient for line CD. I've got my formula, and now I substitute. I need to multiply with 4 over 5 to get rid of this 4 over 5 here. When I multiply with 4 over 5 on this side, I need to do it on the other side as well. And that means that my gradient for CD is negative 4 over 5. Now that I have my gradient, I can go ahead and calculate my y-cut. What do I need to calculate my y-cut? Now these are always the questions that you need to ask yourself. I need my gradient in my equation, and then I need a point. So here are 2 points, here's D and there's C. I can't use point D because I don't have a y value, but I can use point C because I have an x value and a y value. I use this formula and substitute this point into my formula. Y will be equal to 3. My gradient is negative 4 over 5. X value is 3 plus C. I want to simplify to calculate C. So C will be equal to 3 minus 8 over 5, and that would be equal to 1 over 2, 5, or 7 over 5. Now I have everything to write my equation. And there we have it. Determine the equation of line CD, and there's our equation. Next question, determine the y coordinate of D. We know to determine one coordinate, we have to substitute the other coordinate into our equation. I've written my equation for line CD, and now I'm going to substitute my x value into my equation. And now I simplify. And here I need to know my fractions. So negative 4 times 12 is negative 4 times 3 is negative 12 over 5 plus 7 over 5. So when I add, subtract fractions, I write down my denominator, which is 5, and then negative 12 plus 7 would be negative 5, and my answer would be negative 1. So my y value would be negative 1. Next question. Determine the distance from C to D. And now we simply use our distance formula. We write down a distance formula, and this is on our formula sheet, and now we substitute. Let's just label this quickly. x1, y1, x2, and y2, and now we can substitute. x2 is equal to 3 minus 2 squared plus y2 is negative 1 minus 3 squared. I've substituted, and now when I simplify, I get square root 41 or 6,4. Now obviously when you get the question paper and then they will say leave in root form or not, and then you just leave it in root form, or you can write the answer. So it will be 6.4 units. So that's it. You might see I've got the E here, determine the coordinate of F, but I didn't put the F in the sketch. So that's it. I hope you learned something, and the most important thing is the way we go about answering the questions. See you in the next one.